And you're still watching the AM show. Mr. Suleiman Abraima is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. We want to have a conversation. There's something that the Media Foundation for West Africa is also organizing. We'll talk about that. But I've been saying all morning how the media is powerful. People say we're the fourth estate. I listened to a message this morning, and I think that's why media is on my mind. Mr. Suleiman Abraima, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mensa Otabil has said that we can move pillars as media because we feed the people. When you open the graphic newspaper, everything you read is what the reporters want you to know. They're telling you from their angle. But do we realize that we change conversations, we can set agendas?
Well, I think that the fact that the media, perhaps in society, are the primary agenda setters is something that is not new. It's been something that has been proven. People have tested the theory to find out whether indeed the media are agenda setters. And till date, that remains the case. The question then is whether or not, as the ones who put out the information or the ones who make up what the media are, and I'm talking about journalists, whether or not we do appreciate the fact that whatever we do tend to influence conversations, tend to get people to think about certain things in different ways. That is what I think there's a doubt, because sometimes you wonder that if this journalist or that journalist knew the impact of whatever he or she is putting out, then perhaps there could have been some reflections and some correction on what is put out there.
Sometimes some people get the feeling that we're just carrying people's messages. We're not even pausing to reflect on the meaning of what we're doing.
I think so, generally. Of course, there are others who know that this message that I'm putting out there is going to be consumed by a lot of people. It's going to change people's perception. It's going to get people discuss various issues with from different angles. But I think that there are also so many people who feel, well, I'm just putting this out. I've just come across it, and I just want people to know about it. And that is where the problem, I think, comes from.
We've got 15 days to the elections. You do a lot of monitoring as Media Foundation for West Africa. What's the conversation now from your monitoring? Is that the right conversation we should be having?
Well, we started our monitoring from mid-April. And at that time, we were encountering so much of what we generally call indecent expression. And there are various categories of indecent expression, ranging from direct insults to bigotry to tribal slurs to gender-insensitive comments to unsubstantiated allegations, to incitement and comments endorsing violence and so on and so forth. And at that time, if I remember correctly, the last 2 weeks of April, which was the first period of our monitoring, we came across 87 incidents of indecent expression. And at that time, we were monitoring 40 radio stations. Now, that reduced to 68 in the first 2 weeks of May, and then it came to 67 or 64 in the last 2 weeks of May. Now, from June, we increased the number of stations we were monitoring to 60. And in fact, as I speak, it's been increased again to 70. Okay. But what we realized from the last quarter report we've just issued last week is that even as we increased the number of radio stations, we saw a trend of decrease in the number of incidents we were encountering, to the extent that in the last quarter report, which focused on July, August, September, we saw a decrease of about 72% in the number of indecent.
That's very significant.
That's very, very significant. But I think that from over the weekend till now, I'm getting worried that if you have the #1 citizen of our country, the president, the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, begin to get into the conversations or begin to use language that is completely inappropriate, we would have been expecting that we are coding serial callers, we are coding party foot soldiers and activists who are using expressions that constitute bigotry or incitement or tribal slurs and so on and so forth. But I'm worried because what I heard the president say in the Upper West region quite clearly borders on ethnocentrism. I think that it is completely insightful and very, very divisive. And I'm hoping that even as we prepare to put out a statement, the key institutions of our state would demand that the president apologizes. I don't care about people saying, oh, look at this man. When this person said this, where was he? When that person said this, where was he? I mean, this is the president. This is the #1 citizen. In fact, people, as young as he is, or 50-something, people call him our father. I know people who are older than him, and they call the president the old man or the old.
But isn't what he said a true reflection of what exists?
What is the reality? I mean, so to say that what? And I don't think that I want to repeat it on live television. I think that it is completely inappropriate for the president to use that kind of language. One can understand that in this competition, both sides are desperate for power. Both sides are desperate for the votes of the people. Look, but Mama V, you know that it is not everything that you know that you would even publicly put it out there. It is not everything that is said. And I'm not saying that what he said reflects even the reality. Because what is the evidence to suggest that one party doesn't really respect a group of people, or one party is opposed to one? Look, so imagine Dr. Kwesi Ndum going to Cape Coast and saying, I'm from here, and I know that these people are against this person, or this party is against our ethnic group, and therefore don't vote for them. Nanado goes to Achin and says, look, I'm from here, and I know that these people are against, this group. That is why we've never had a presidential candidate from this area in that party, and so on and so forth. I think that it is completely something that shouldn't be said.
Isn't that also perhaps, political talk?
No, but I'm saying that
political, we are in they say the silly season. The heat is on. Everybody wants to say something that can get their messages across, something like that. So he just said it.
If it were so, for example, the monitoring that we are doing wouldn't be something that is useful, because we need shame. Our politicians who feel they are saying things that inures to the benefit of the parties that they support. But then we say that, look, there are certain things that you don't say, because governance is about the development and the progress of this country. So if in the whole process of seeking to govern this country, what you do is to sow seeds of division, what you do is to pitch one ethnic group against the other, then at the end of the day, are you interested in governing a country that is divided, or you are interested in governing a country that is united? I'm wondering what the president would say now when he goes to a place like the Ashanti region, or when he goes to the eastern region, and particularly in the Achim area. Would he then be able to tell the people from the Achim land to say, vote for me, when you are the same person who is saying that one party doesn't really recognize people from the north, and so on and so forth? I am a Northerner, and I feel ashamed by that, because I first see myself as a Ghanaian, and what I want is a country that is progressing, it's a country that is developing, and a country that creates opportunities for all. And I don't care whether my president is from the south, or my president is from the west, or central, or east, and so all I want is somebody who leads this country in the right direction.
So it's just the commentary, not the definition of it, or not the reason. Because what if he knows something? I mean, it's based on something. He's saying it from his point of view for a fact.
Again, the president as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the #1 person who gets briefed on intelligence issues every day, are we saying that the president will come out and tell us whatever is happening as far as our national security is concerned? So I'm saying that there are certain things that, even if you say they are facts, there are things that you don't put out there, because of course people may also know certain things about the president, but then you are advised to say, look, you can't put this out there, because it would lead to something that would be unpalatable, or it will lead to something, because then you open the floodgates and then to say, well, say whatever you think, whatever perception you have about me, you can put it out there. But I don't think that is what we would encourage. Even in the US, with their over 300 years of democracy, during the campaign, people were concerned about the issues of racism and who is getting appointed by Trump now is a conservative white, superiority person, or somebody who believes in, this kind of philosophy or that kind of philosophy, which doesn't unite a country. And we're talking about an advanced society where elections are not about peace and war. But this country, elections are about peace and war. And it's also because of what we use governance for, which is to amass wealth, to loot the state, and so on and so forth. And that is why we are in the situation that we find ourselves in.
So you expect that he would apologize for the comments that he made?
Well, I hope that the right institutions would put pressure on the president to apologize. Or perhaps, maybe it was out of the euphoria of the people around him that made him go that far. And based on second thought and reflection, I'm hoping that if he wants to convince us that he is the right person to lead this country, because I don't think that somebody who preaches, ethnocentrism is somebody who is fit to lead this country. And I believe that he would clear himself out of that.
And if he doesn't?
This was just a momentary thing.
If he doesn't?
I'm sorry about that.
Are you leading a campaign to draw attention of people?
No, I think that so many people who are concerned about this country would definitely be concerned about what came out from the president. Of course, in the past, a lot of things have come up. We've heard a tape of Osafo Mafu saying, we the accounts and blah, blah, blah. We've heard in the past Nana Addo make reference to Yana Kamfo and so on and so forth. But all those things were really condemnable. And I believe that the people who may have done that in the past may have learned their lessons. And that is why in this campaign, that hasn't been a key issue until now that it is being raised by no less a person than the president. And I believe that the president is a very decent person, and I hope that he would come out to apologize.
If he doesn't?
To the people of this country. Well, if he doesn't, people can form their own opinions about him. And whether or not he is the right person to lead this country.
Let's talk about your town hall program that's coming up. Promoting peace in Ghana's 2016 elections. I have said this before, that we're preaching peace. Are we concerned about the systems? Do we care about how the Electoral Commission, for instance, is running the elections, the concerns that some people have? Or we're just preaching peace irrespective of the challenges?
Well, I think that so many people and so many organizations are doing different things. Our core mandate is on the media and freedom of expression, for people to empower people to express themselves, to express their views, whilst at the same time empowering the media to serve as very efficient and professional platforms that allows for people to express themselves. Now, in an election period like this, there are so many rumors going around, there are so many allegations and so on and so forth. And one of the key things towards having people clear their minds is to get people to platforms such as the ones we are organizing. And that is why, for example, when we had a similar event in Tamale, there were issues around the police, and the regional police commander was there. And one key question that came out was that, look, the police fails to act when the NDC happens to be perpetrators of violence or crime. And the commander had to explain and clear the doubts that people had about the neutrality and independence of the police. But for that, you wonder where somebody like that was going to get the opportunity to directly ask a regional police commander that question. When we had the same event in Kumasi, similar questions were raised to the police, to the Electoral Commission, and so on and so forth. And that is why this year, for example, you may have read that we've had the opportunity of, on one occasion or the other, getting the entire commission of the Electoral Commission to have a face-to-face with the media. And I remember it was in Kumasi where this whole thing about whether journalists should pay for the accreditation tax came up. And so I think that platforms like this allow for a lot more conversation, allow for people to clear any doubts that they have. And that is why we also try to bring the key people who can respond to the questions that the people have. So this evening's event, for example, we had invited the IGP, but we know he's delegated the regional police commander to be the one speaking. The Electoral Commission would be there. And other key institutions will be there. The NCCE will be there. Religious groups will be there. And so, and then of course we have the ECOWAS Election Observation Group also being there. And we also have, we're talking about peace and conflict. And in Africa today, South Sudan is one of the countries that is really, really going through a lot in terms of conflict. And so we have a South Sudanese group also here to share perspectives with us, what they are going through, what has been the role of the media, how has the conflict impacted on the lives of people and also the media. So it's a platform for learning and sharing, and a platform for creating opportunities for people to clear any doubts they have.
When you hear the clashes, for instance, what happened, was it at Asokori over the weekend? And then I remember Dio. Are we expected as media to report it in any other way? I mean, when the things happen, we have to report, but also reporting it when it happens, as it happens, also gets people elsewhere a lot more either agitated. They're, like you feel it even when you don't feel what's happening. You may not be in Asokori, but you kind of realize the situation even in Accra because you're hearing it from the media. So essentially what I'm asking is, are we reporting it the way it's supposed to be reported?
Well, I think that the media have to let people know what's happening. And so what happened in Asokori, but for the media, maybe it would have been, but for the media in Koforidua, it may have been limited to people, eyewitnesses who saw it, and people who go to the hospital and see the victims and ask, or the people and ask, oh, what happened? And then they are told what happened. So quite clearly, the media have to report what happens. Now, I wish that we would have a situation where some of these people who are involved in the process and who get wounded into a studio like this to be asked, what at all are you looking for? So today you have your head bandaged, you are lying on the hospital bed, just so that you can get somebody's father, somebody's sister, somebody's brother elected to be in a V8, free car, free vehicle, free fuel, free accommodation, free driver, free policeman, and live in luxury. And to be able to do that, you get yourself into trouble. You may even lose your life. I wish people who get involved in these things are interviewed one-on-one to know what is in their what really goes through their mind when they get involved in these things, just so that they can get people's fathers, people's brothers elected. Look, elections shouldn't be about violence. Go and vote, decide who you want to vote for that person. If that person wins, fine, emotionally you may be satisfied, but why would you get into violence and confrontation to the extent that you can lose your life and so on and so forth? And I believe that that is part of the things that the media would also have to do in terms of educating the people in saying, look, it's your life. You may want Akufo-Addo, you may want President Mahama, you may want Indum, or you may want this other person. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about violence, because you lose your life and that's it. No one takes care of your family, your kids, and so on and so forth.
I think this is key, because we ask the questions, but normally we would say what happened. It's like your accounts of what happened, instead of reflect on what has happened to you, what you've been involved in, and see if it's worth it. Yeah.
So perhaps getting them one-on-one. I know some are yet to be discharged from the hospital, others have been discharged, but it will be useful to ask them directly, not about what happened, for them to tell you it was the NDC person or MPP person who first threw the stone at me and I also retaliated and so on and so forth. But why would you get involved in this kind of physical and violent acts, just so that what? An MP would be elected to come and sit in their comfortable Chinese-made chairs and so on, and then you would still be in your Asokori or in your Koforidua or in your village. And I wonder why people do that. And I think that if the media begins to push that agenda, some people may begin to reflect. Because at the end of the day, Nana Akufo-Addo has daughters, President Mahama has children, and where are they in the campaign? Where are they in the campaign? But at the end of the day, if President Mahama's kids may be enjoying in a way that my kids or your kids and those who are there on the streets, with motorbikes, as metro men and so on, their kids, their brothers will not have that opportunity. So why would you do that? Yes, you may be passionate about a particular political party, but then what you do is to campaign for that party, to advise people to vote for that party, and on that day, go and vote for that party. But otherwise, I don't understand people when they get themselves into these kinds of acts.
I've learned a lot. But the event today, what time, where is it happening?
Well, so the event today is at the University of Ghana, at the African Studies Department at Nketia Hall. And the time is from 7 to 9:30 p.m. People would ask, why p.m. or why in the evening? And it's because this will be a live event. It will be live on Ghana Television. It will be live on TV Africa. And of course, we have Joy News as partners and so on. So we wanted to create that opportunity where those who cannot be there physically can also be part of the conversation from their homes. And I must say that in all these elections processes and talking about the media, one area that is also of concern to us is the safety of journalists on elections day. And so last week we had a training program for journalists, and we had two people from multimedia as part of this training on safety of journalists during the elections coverage. And on 23rd, which is on Wednesday, we also have a forum between the media and the Election Security Task Force of the Ghana Police Service. Okay. And we're also bringing together the regional public relations officers of, from all the 11 regional commands of the Ghana Police Service to interact with the media so that some modalities can be put in place to ensure that journalists are safe whilst covering the elections and to be able to cover the elections with confidence.
I tell you what, this is one of the things I think about. Sometimes I think very far. Internet, are you worried that we'll have consistent internet throughout election day?
Again, that is one thing that we've had conversations about. Last week, the NMC convened a forum to discuss the issue of social media and the responsible use of social media during elections. And I happen to be one of the speakers at that forum. And my point was, look, social media as a platform has no problem. It is how people use it that creates the problem. So it is the people who are the problem and not the platform called social media. And again, we need to make it clear that crime online is same as crime offline. So you don't go on social media to commit a crime and think that, look, I'm perpetrating this crime on the internet and therefore I am free. I think people need to understand that you can be in trouble if you commit crime online. I think social media is a great platform. It allows for people to express themselves. It allows for those who cannot have the opportunity to have their views heard through mainstream media, do that on social media. And
do you fear that they will cut the internet?
No,
Okay.
I don't think that.
Right.
I don't think that our government or our police or whatever would do that, because that would be a terrible mistake to make.
All right. We'll have more conversations in the coming days, but I would like to say thank you for your time. Just to remind you, the Media Foundation for West Africa, with funding support from Ford Foundation, is holding a special town hall meeting for stakeholders here in Accra. The event, which will be televised live on national television, comes off today, Monday, 21st of November 2016, at the Professor Kwabena Nketia Hall, Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana, Legon, at 7 p.m. prompt. It's under the theme, Making Ghana's 2016 Elections Peaceful, the Role of the Stakeholder, and will be chaired by the former Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Justice Emil Francis Short. Traditional leaders, religious leaders, civil society organizations, the media, academia, among others, will participate in the forum. There will be presentations from key stakeholders such as the Electoral Commission, the NCCE, and the Ghana Police Service on interventions being put in place to ensure that the outcome of the 2016 elections is peaceful. All political parties will have the opportunity to make statements as well, and all of us are invited. All right, Mr. Suleiman Barma, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you 7 p.m. tomorrow. Today, later today.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, stay with us. you.